So let's see where we're up to here. Nufas carbon toda. Meiniach me'al achaz v'ashok v'yimurim es arbas hachalos shehein shumas hatoda lekonim umenif. We discussed before yesterday the mitzvah of tnufa, and we had the chlayos and the oseres hakaved, which are the murim on top of the chaz v'shok, and that was for other karbonos. In the case of carbon toda, we have, in addition to the chaz v'shok, which is on the bottom, and the emurim on top of the emurim, in the case of carbon toda, we have 4 chalos. And these are the trumas hatoda lekonim. You may remember that there were 40 lechamim in a carbon toda, each one representing a different min, and there was an obligation on the part of the bailim of the owner of the carbon who brought the carbon to be mafresh 1 loaf, 1 challah from each of the 4 minim and give it as a gift to the Kohen. So we start, the tnufa starts with the bottom going up from the chaz v'shok, which is a gift to the Kohen. On top of that, the murim, which normally would be the tippy top. But here in the case of Toda, we need the 4 chalos representing each of the 10 chalos that make up that min and are given to the Kohen. They are on the top, above the emurim, and then they do the tnufa. We never were able to get a clear grasp on why the gifts to the Kohanim on the bottom and the emurim are on the top. We suggested perhaps the principle of ein mavri ein over al mitzvahs, that after the tnufa we're going to start with the emurim and be mak to the emurim before we deliver the gift to the Kohanim, because the Kohanim are only allowed to eat from the chaz v'shok, or in this case the lachmei toda, after the emurim were burnt on the mizbeach. However, we got stuck with a problem yesterday because we said that the chaz v'shok are on top of the chalev. That we didn't understand. So we had a sandwich between the chalev on the bottom and the shtei kloyos, etc. on top, and we wedged in the chaz v'shok in the middle. It just didn't make any sense to us. Because if we're going with ein over and al mitzvahs, then why the chalavim lamata, below the chaz v'shok? The chalavim should be together with the shtei kloyos. But there's some sort of separate halach, which we don't know why, that you have to separate the chalev from the shtei kloyos. And the only way of doing that is by wedging the chaz v'shok in the middle. Now we have another halacha where the lachmei toda are all the way on top. Me'al chaz v'shok v'ha'im. And once again, that undermines our thesis of ein over al mitzvahs, because the lachmei toda that are given as a gift to the Kohen require the emurim before the Kohen could benefit and enjoy those lachmei toda. So why are the lachmei toda on the top? Okay, now we have a different halach of tnufa, and that's the el nazir. So in the process of purifying himself, I shouldn't say purifying himself, but of terminating his status as a nazir and allowing him to eat, to drink wine, and to go into a beis hakvaros, etc., he needs to bring an ayil. That's called the el nazir. It has the status of shlomim, and it requires tnufa. And once again, the chalavim lamata, the chaz v'shok on top of the chaz v'shok, the shtei kloyos, the oseres hakaved. But who kit tnufa shlomim? So far, it hasn't deviated one iota from a classic Tnufa Shlom, Elo, Shemosif Me'ala Kol. So on top of the Shtei Kloyos, Yoser Sakov, he adds the Zroa B'Shela Shel Ayil, which means the Torah requires that the ayil should be cooked and the arm is subject to tnufa. Now, in addition to the Zroa B'Shela, is another ingredient in the tnufa that has to be added to this whole cholent, this whole, tiered tower of tnufa, and that is shtei lechamim. Okay, then, so he tells you to look in Perek Tesvi Ma'aseh Karbonos. We don't have time to look there to see about the nature of this iyuv of shtei lechamim in the case of El Naz. And then once we figure that out, then we'll have to ask the question, why are these shtei lechamim placed on top? Now we get to Kivsei Atzeres. On Chag HaShavuos, in addition to the Shtei HaLechem, which is the quintessential carbon of Chag HaShavuos, there are Kivsei Atzeres. And there's something very unique about the Kivsei Atzeres. And that is that they have the status of Kodshim, even though they are really shlomim. I mean, shlomim is never kodshim except in shtei hakfasim of kivsei atzeres, because kivsei atzeres are a carbon tzibur. Shlomim is always, by definition, a carbon yachid. And the unique exception to that case is Kivsei Atzeres, which is Shlomim, and yet it is a tzibur obligation. And the uniqueness of Kivsei Atzeres expresses itself not just in its status as Kodshim, but also in its mitzvah of Tnufa, which in fact requires not one Tnufa, but two Tnufos. Number one, when the Kvasim are alive, even before the Shechita, the Kohen takes these kvasim and he places them near the Shtei HaLechem and he does tnufa. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the tnufa here is done with the Shnei kvasim and the Shtei HaLechem. And that tnufa, in a sense, integrates the Shtei kvasim into the Shtei HaLechem, so to speak, making it into one carbon. Now, after he did the first tnufa, he's ready for shechita. And after the avodos hadam are complete, he does hafshata. He places the chaz of a shot without imurim next to the shtei halechem, and he does tnufa. This is the second. First tnufa was before shechita. The second is after hefshet. Question is there going to be a third tnufa? I guess not. Why is he leaving out the emur? I understood this. See, a lot of this is so technical, he doesn't give you like a conceptual framework to understand it. Like the Eino Dumya, the Achos Isha that we spoke about before. And by the way, in the footnote, he quotes as a source for the fact that this Tnufa omits the Murin, the Rashash. The Rashash lived, I don't know, 150 years ago. He's a pretty contemporary guy. And the Rashash derives it from the fact that the Rambam, when he discusses the Kivsei Atzeres in Tmidim Musaf and Perches, he omits mention of the Tnufa de Murim. Seems like there are two footnotes of the same number. Okay. I mean, there should be Tnufa Seimurim. If you treat these Kivtzei Atzeres as Kodshim, and even if they're Kodshim Kalim, we said that a Shlomim needs Tnufa of the Emurim. I mean, we didn't understand why the Emurim was split into two. So wait a minute. Are we talking? What? Now I'm getting myself a little bit confused here. What's the deal with Kodshim? So I'm thinking now, I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth, that Kodshim did not require Tnufa. And therefore, Kivsei Atzeres, so far as they have a status of Kodshim, did not require Tnufa. So the first Tnufa of Kivsei Atzeres is to link up the Kvasim with the Shtei Lechem. And the second Tnufa is on the Chazav Shok, which is common to all Shlomim. So that's the only thing I could make sense out of it. That the Machayev of Tnufa in Kivsei Atzeres as Kodshim is a unique Machayev. It's either A, to link it up with the Shtei Lechem, or B, the Machayev is Chazav Shok. Because like other Shlomim, Kivsei Atzeres has a Chiyuv Chazav Shok, which is not true for Kodshim. Well, let's offer that as a shall I say a temporary suggestion. Now on page Tesvav, Nechlaku Rishonim b'chol Tnufos imhem nasim dafka b'mizrach ha'azara Right, we spoke about the directions. That first he goes Tzafon, then Daram, Mizrach, and Ma'arif. That's only directions that he's shaking it or waving it. But where, in which location and which part of the Azara should the Tnufa be done? Is it in the Mizrach Azara or the Chol Azara? Anywhere in the Azara. Rashi says on the Mishnah in Menachos, Tnufa Haisa b'Mizrach. Rashi says Afilu b'Mizrach shu rachok min hahecha. The Kodshim b'Mayra shu yoser karv lehecha. This you have to know more midos, you know. Shitas Arama Makavona Dafka b'Mizrach. You know, you get the impression here. Again, everything is Beravon Rubal. That Tnufa is sort of downgraded a little bit. It was all the fanfare of this complicated, you know, tiered hierarchy mountain for Tnufa. Yet it's not really essential to the carbon, so we're going to delegate it to the Mizrach, which in the Azara is sort of one notch lower because it's further away from the Heichal. And the Rambam says Dafka. Rashi learns Hafilu, that even though the Mizrach is on a lower level, it's that further distance from the Heichal. Nevertheless, we can, you know, when it comes to Tnufa, we can suffice with Mizrach, but if he wants to do it in Tzafon, that's fine. Anywhere in the Azor. Oh, now we get to Ola Sa'of. Okay, this is, according to Chazal, the most complicated of all the avodas. And with regard to oath, we're talking about Malika, in which basically the Kohen will use his thumbnail to cut into the neck of the bird. That replaces shechita in an animal. But again, this only applies to karbonos. It's that if you want to be mater a bird, it needs shechita. Now here we have a little bit of a diagram, which is helpful, because you'll see on the bottom left of the diagram a protruded higher area that surrounds the mizbeach, or at least three sides of the mizbeach. And that's called the yisod. But he wants to go up to the sove. Because we're talking now about olas ha'of. So chatas ha'of requires malika on the yisod, but olas ha'of requires climbing higher to the sove. Like the sove is that protrusion around the top of the mizbeach, which allows the Kohen access to the gag hamizbeach. And on the sovev, that's where the Kohen does the malika. Now the sovev goes around all four sides of the mizbeach. So which right? And there are on the Mizbeach, there are 4 chronos. So which of the chronos of Mizbeach is the ideal and exact location for Malika? It's called Dromis Mizrachis. Now, in order to appreciate the diagram, you have to sort of circle the 4 directions, right? You have on top the Tzafon, on the bottom the Darom, on the left side you have the Ma'arav, and the right side the Mizrach. So if you want to pinpoint Dromis Mizrachis, then it's on the bottom right side of the Sovev, meaning of the Mizbech, the Keren Dromis Mizrachis. Again, this all depends upon where you stand. And what we're discussing now is a person who goes up the Kevesh in order to stand on the Sovev. So you need a larger picture. I think you have one there at the beginning of the Masechta in color, I think they have one. Where you see the Mizbeach in a broader context. Maybe I'll just, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll give it right back to you. I don't want you to leave here. So this is going to be the Heichal, I think, so that the Mizbeach, you understand, it's not, this is what you call east to west from the perspective of the Migdash. We're looking at the Azora, and the Mizbeach is on a different angle. You follow what I mean? So he calls this Daram. If the Mizbeach was facing the Heichal, then you'd go up to Kevesh and you'd be going from the east to the west. You're going up to Kevesh and you're going from the south to the north. If there's a better picture, I just need a larger overview. You have one, or that's all we have? Oh, this is even perhaps a little bit better, but he doesn't have the directions here. So anyway, if you follow what I'm saying, the direction, if the Mizbeach would have been facing towards the Heichal, instead of being on a 90-degree angle, right? Then the Kevesh coming over here would be Mizrach, going Ma'arav. But since it's on the other side, so this is Daram and this is Tzafon. Oh, Daram, and that's Tzafon. So if we're looking for the Mizrachis Dromis, so obviously this is Daram, and Mizrach is to his right. So this corner, that Keren, let's see, he gives it a letter here. Was that a Ches? He just calls it Kronos HaMizbeach. Anyway, this particular Keren is Mizrachis Dromis. And this is the Sovev, so that the Kohen is standing on the Sovev, and he's going to do the Malika over this Keren. And that's called Keren Dromis Mizrachis. All right, thanks for that. Oches es ha'of me'al gav yodo hayimonis. So the gav is the outside of the hand. and the oaf is basically situated outside his hand. And in which direction is the oaf facing? Paner klapi mata. The face of the bird is facing downward. The gabol itzad mala, and the back of the oaf is on the top. And how is he going to hold on to the oaf? So he offers here a partial description. It's not a complete description. He says, so the premise is that the oaf has two legs, and he grabs them, bein zeres l'kmitza. Again, the diagram failed us a little bit here, but I suppose, I don't know, this diagram doesn't do it for me. Once again, I think you might have a picture at the beginning of the Masech there of Malika. I don't know. This photocopy that I have, is this a colored page or a black and white? Black and white. I don't know if we're going to be able to do justice without a better diagram where I can find such. Okay, so right now we don't have too much time. We'll just read it through. Bein zeres l'kmitza shebiyado hayimonis mahadek eshtei hatzvos halol. So he's clamping down very tightly with these two fingers, so that he has a very strong grip on the raglayim. The achach machnis es savar ha'of. So he's now holding on to the feet of the oaf. Now he has to get hold of the head of the oaf. And that's bein etzba le'agudo. Which I think is here. Can you make it out in the picture? I don't know. Where do you see the head here? No, it's too complicated. I mean, I could see the wing, the see anything here?
This part right here is that.
Make a note of that. Even this is your copy. Do you mind?
No, please. Yeah, that's the
head.
That's the head.
And which fingers is he grabbing with?
So with these two, he's holding it down.
The head?
That.
Oh, these two?
Yeah. So
and then where the legs are here between these two?
And with the two smaller.
So in between, he has got the legs trapped.
Right.
All right.
He's got the legs here, and then he's got the head back down by.
So nothing is between his thumb and his forefinger. All right.
Right, and it's, his thumb is a little bit,
The Achakach Moshit Siporen. See, again, I don't see it in the picture. Tziporin is the nail of the aguda, but the aguda I thought was the thumb. Did I make a mistake about that? We'll need a dictionary for this. Molik is a oaf me orfo from its back. Molika ba'ofen zeh hi min avodos hakoshos shebemigdash. You know, could be I'd be doing better if I had a magnifying glass. Okay, then so this is where we'll stop. I'm gonna try to see. Maybe you could also help me if you find a better diagram of the Lika.